What is going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today we're going to talk about SoFi. I want to go over some of the current data points, talk on the next big catalyst for SoFi, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So currently it is down 0.43%, a lot of volatility. And when it comes to the volume, 9.3 million shares being traded, 37 is the average. So it is rather low, but then again, today is a reduced day. So I think it closes at 1 p.m. Eastern. So obviously a lot of people probably just aren't trading today, obviously justifying the lower volume. At the time of doing this video, no SEC filings, no press releases, nothing like that. So it is just piggybacking off of the broader market of sorts. And you can tell that a lot of the data behind the scenes does indicate that SoFi wants to break out a little bit higher. So I'm going to go over all of that, starting off with shorts. So currently 175,000 shares are being increased by shorts. 13.87% of the free float is being shorted. 124.17 million shares overall are being shorted, and cost to borrow average is 0.82%. And it is interesting to note that the cost to borrow minimum is negative, so meaning there is a broker out there physically paying people to short SoFi. So kind of interesting when it comes down to that. Through the interactive broker, short availability does indicate that there's more than 10 million shares available to be shorted. And I just wanted to show you this tweet. Obviously this isn't 100% associated to SoFi, but hedge funds did lose 43 billion last week from shorting, because I think that the broader market does want to break out. Just a lot of the bigger money is trying to suppress the market entering into an expansionary stage. So you kind of have this battle, because you do have a lot of good value stocks out there. And so there was this tweet that was posted by Data Driven Investing. So on a side note, if you are on Twitter and you're not following him, highly suggest in doing so. But this kind of chart right here shows that the revenue of SoFi versus the stock price. So there's a big problem with that. And of course, there's a lot of stocks out there that are just heavily reliant on debt and whatever else. So Brian's tweet right here: buy damaged stocks, avoid damaged companies. So this is a very good representation of SoFi. SoFi is just a damaged stock, and you can tell that based on their earnings. Time and time again, they are constantly hitting home runs. So once again, you do always have to avoid damaged companies. But ultimately, SoFi has just been suppressed on many different levels, especially considering if you're comparing it to a lot of other fintechs. SoFi's short interest is rather high at around 14%. I'm not here to say that SoFi is going to be a short squeeze by any means. I just find this very interesting, especially considering if we talk on technicals, stochastic is showing it at 16. So it is considered very oversold. So once again, you kind of have SoFi just very damaged and very oversold. So once the next big catalyst does come out, this is where SoFi could go up very, very fast, in my own opinion. But as you can tell, the black line above the red does indicate a nice bullish sentiment. Number of retail investors have been slowly getting out, with the exception of today. So it looks like they're starting to funnel back in slightly. So I'm going to go over the technicals and whatever else, and then I'll go into options. But with it at $6.87, it is between this S1 and the pivot. So right now, $7 is that next strong resistance, and then $6.65 is going to be the next strong support. So most likely it's just going to be stuck in limbo until either a next big catalyst comes out that I'm going to share with you in a second, or potentially something larger that could really drive the stock price higher. Who knows? We'll just have to sit tight and wait. But overall, I just wanted to share one additional thing that did come out recently. And so there was a new rating that came out today, and it was from Citibank. Arshwin, who does have a 57% success rating, did up their price target from, I believe it was $10 to now $11. So I'd see that as fairly optimistic if you ask me, and does put SoFi at a very, very substantial discount. Just is very weird. And I've always had this problem. I know I've voiced my concern to you guys in the past, but somehow institutions such as Wedbush and Compass Point, when they give a sell rating, somehow it does so much more damage to the stock, versus when there's a bullish rating that comes down the pipeline, the stock doesn't really move, which is very weird. I don't know. What's your viewpoint on that? Something that I've been noticing, and obviously I'm sure a lot of you have as well. But going over options, $918,000 in calls being purchased versus 970 in puts. So fairly optimistic when it comes down to that, especially if you are comparing it to the last several days. There's been a lot more calls being purchased. So who knows? Let me know your thoughts on that. And plus, keep in mind, a big chunk of these puts was just purchased roughly about the last 5 minutes. Maybe a little bit more negative viewpoint going into next week. I'm not really sure. And looking at the specific calls though for the volume, it is anticipated for it to be above $7 by the end of next week. So not really much has changed based on my last video. Looking at puts, people anticipating for it to be sub 650. So all of this matches the technicals and the support and resistance points that I just mentioned. But no matter what, when it comes down to options activity, it's just merely a sentiment. It does not move the stock price. And so finally, when it comes down to the next big catalyst, that is this. So it was announced right here. So the upcoming investor conferences. So this November the 15th one already did happen. And when this did come out, I believe it went up around 2 or 3%, because typically whenever there is a fireside chat or just a Q&A, the stock price does go up. So December the 4th, it does show that it's going to be the next Q&A done by SoFi. And it looks like Anthony Noto and I think he and Chris Lapointe as well are going to be both there, and they're going to be answering a lot of difficult questions. But regardless, I feel like their answers are going to help the stock price. So first one, when the company will be profitable, or when will the company be profitable? So definitely adding a little bit more criteria or context to that, because is it going to be early 2024, what was previously planned, or what's the viewpoint on that? So I think this definitely could help the stock price. Similarly, just asking about Technisys, whether if it's still going to be adding the same level of savings as what they previously announced or not. And this one right here, I feel like this is a question that I would really like to know, but depending on their answer, they could really spin it to a very good positive. Can you speak to the insider selling? And there has been quite a lot. Just to quickly show you, I know I've brought this up on last couple of videos, but there has been a huge, immense amount of selling over the last little bit, and no real explanation as to why. It's not for tax purposes, it's not for, I don't know, it's just a straight up transaction code S, meaning a sell. So not really sure why, but this will be a very good answer, or at least information for us to know. And then this one, SoFi will be profitable in the next few years. Do you plan to deliver dividends to shareholders in the future? I feel like this is a good question. Most likely their answer will be very vague, because they wouldn't really want to commit to that, but still, regardless, good to kind of hear that. And then just insider selling and whatever else. So ultimately, I feel like this is a very good question, and hopefully actually this question in among itself, what is SoFi doing to expand? Is there a plan to buy companies in the sector or expand internationally? So this is also another good question, but I feel like they are going to answer it very conservatively and just say that they're going to be trying to mitigate risk, because expanding right now, I feel like a lot of companies aren't necessarily doing that. So hopefully SoFi is going to take the conservative answer or route to this, but still, no matter what, a lot of these fireside chats and Q&As typically does cause the stock price to go up, especially with the question number one about them being profitable. This will really help the sentiment and help the stock price. And as well, if you do couple that with the fact that it is oversold and just the technicals are indicating a nice breakout could be coming in the foreseeable future, this might be the catalyst for, or at least to cause that. So let me know your thoughts on SoFi. Give yourself a shout out. Have you been buying? Have you been selling? What have you been doing with SoFi? And let me know your thoughts. Is there any other questions potentially that you feel should be asked? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. But with all that said, I appreciate all of you watching, and let's eventually make a ton of money on SoFi.